What's up, y'all? This is your girl, Megan. Welcome back to my channel. If you're already a subscriber, if this is your first time joining me on today, go ahead, hit that subscribe button because you know you want to. Also, I do personal natal chart readings. So if you're interested in having a reading done, hit me up at Astro World. That's Astro, WERLD at gmail.com. And we can go ahead and schedule you an appointment ASAP. So without further ado, I want to talk about Blac Chyna and this whole debacle with the bleaching cream, or just Blac Chyna in and of herself, okay? Because she is I guess you could call her a celebrity slash socialite whose rise to fame and power, I don't know, I take that back. That bitch ain't got no power. But her rise to fame was pretty much predicated upon her being a well-known stripper, number one. And then number two, having children with very prominent celebrities like rappers and reality stars. I believe her first child was by Tyga from Young Money, the rapper. And then the second child, her daughter, is from Robert Kardashian. There's all of that. And just in general, Blac Chyna has been a very controversial figure in the sense that she represents the type of woman that a lot of people tend to villainize in society, meaning a woman who is, number one, works in the sex industry. And I mean, she's a stripper, and I would even argue that she was a prostitute, but we'll get into that later in her chart. And then she kind of flosses around this type of baby mama, like I'm having children for a check kind of mentality, type of attitude. So she kind of just encapsulates that, I don't know, this kind of video vixen slash like, why are you famous type of person that a lot of people tend to hate in the culture. And it makes her a very polarizing figure. And, you know, in the past, I felt bad for her simply because I don't judge people. I actually really appreciate and have lots of respect for sex workers and people who go into fields like that. I mean, somebody got to do it, you know? But you know what? My defense of Blac Chyna, even when it came down to her scamming, you know, Rob Kardashian or using men for a come up, arguably, I even kind of tried to find the sympathy in that. But bitch, Angela, my sympathy stops for you here. I am done caping for you, and it's time to just call a spade a spade. You know, this woman came publicly and became the brand ambassador of a bleaching cream company in Africa. And for those of you all who have any type of knowledge about just the context of this issue, between Africa and Jamaica, you know, they make up the largest demographic of bleaching cream users or buyers, which is very ironic given that these are two very black, well, Africa's a continent, obviously, but they're two very black, I guess you could say, populated area. And the only thing that's more disappointing than Blac Chyna making the decision to do such a thing is people's response to this. There are some people who have spoken out against Blac Chyna's decision to become an ambassador of this skin bleaching company, but a lot of people have also kind of caped for her and gone up for her and kind of defended her in her decision to do such a thing. And that's the part where it really becomes sad, sickening, and just very evident that people are lost. And in this capitalism society, or this capitalistic society, we have become so accustomed to placing money above our morals and our ethics, you know. And I get that morals and ethics aren't tailor-made to fit everyone. Everybody kind of has a different variation of what they feel to be moral and morally acceptable. But we have to draw the line somewhere. We have to hold people accountable somewhere. Our influencers have to be held accountable somewhere. And it shouldn't start or end with Blac Chyna. With that being said, after taking all of that into consideration, I just decided to do a general birth chart reading on Miss Blac Chyna just to see what is going on. So, Miss Blac Chyna was born on May the 11th, 1988, in Washington, D.C. This makes her a Taurus sun and a Pisces moon. I don't know her time of birth, so we're just going to go based off of just the sign placements of each planet in her aspects. Now, right off the bat, her Pisces moon deals with her issues with her mother. Simply because a lot of people, from what I've noticed, who have Pisces moons tend to have a type of karmic relationships with their mother, in the sense that their mothers are either emotionally or physically unavailable. Between Pisces moons and Capricorn moons, they both tend to have very kind of seedy relationships with their mothers, if indicated by other factors in the chart. And there are other factors in the chart for her, so we'll come back to this later. And the presence of her Pisces moon, that Neptune influence, in combination with Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, could indicate somebody who is prone to self-indulgence, somebody who could possibly even have addiction issues if factored by other things in the chart. And there are other things in the chart that kind of point towards that as well. Blac Chyna's sun is in the 21st degree of Taurus, which breaks down to 3. And 3 pretty much deals with being attractive, sociable, flirty, somebody who is pretty charming and can work a crowd. Her being born on the 11th breaks down to the number 2, which deals with holding on to the past, or an inability to just kind of like release traumas that occurred earlier on in life. Now, granted, 11 is a master number, so technically you're not supposed to break it down, but it still carries certain energy signatures of the number 2. And this kind of inability to let go of the past is a reoccurring theme that I see in her chart as well. Chyna's Jupiter is in the sign of Taurus, and it is sitting in opposition to her Pluto, which is in the sign of Scorpio. Now, this could point towards her being a gold digger, because this basically reflects somebody who has just by any means necessary approach when it comes to obtaining wealth and fame and status, right? Somebody who has an extreme desire for these things and is pretty much willing to do whatever it takes. And this Scorpio presence here, because Scorpio is the sign of death, it's the sign of sex, it's the sign of criminal activity. This could be somebody who even obtains wealth by working in the sex industry, by somebody who I would even say does prostitution, which leads me to believe that at some point in her life, Blac Chyna has done more than stripping. Yes, stripping is in the adult industry as well, but keep in mind that Blac Chyna is willing to do whatever it takes to obtain luxuries and wealth and things that embody everything that her sun sign represents. Taurus is represented by Venus. So Venus wants luxury. Venus wants wealth, and with her Jupiter being in Taurus, keep in mind, Jupiter expands everything. Jupiter makes everything larger than life. So there is this craving, this just insatiable appetite for the finer things in life. So when it comes down to getting a check, it ain't too much she won't do, especially with the Scorpio present. Ain't too much Chyna's not going to do to get that. And so this definitely explains her decision to take on such a controversial kind of deal as far as being the brand ambassador of a fucking skin bleaching company in Africa. She just doesn't give a fuck, point blank, period. She begins with the end in mind. And if the end is making money, everything and everyone else is simply collateral damage. Now, this aspect also points towards all of the blowback that Blac Chyna is getting, because this aspect tends to create a lot of public backlash and discourse in regards to how this person goes about obtaining their wealth, which obviously is the case in this instance. Blac Chyna has received a lot of criticism over this, and it could I mean, it could add to her the negative reputation or the way people view her, as far as seeing her as somebody who is this money hungry hustler, like that is pretty much like the scum of the earth. And there are people who really do like Blac Chyna, but there are people who really, 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 really don't like her. And this aspect tends to bring about a lot of enemies and a lot of public defamation. And with her sun being conjoined to her Jupiter, this basically compounds the fact that Blac Chyna is very materialistic. She's very luxury based. She loves indulging her senses and her, she likes the things that money can buy. With her sun being in square to her Mars in the sign of Aquarius, this points to the fact that Chyna clearly like developed this very competitive kind of nature from early on in life, from suffering some type of physical abuse, mental abuse, some type of trauma. And I'm thinking that this is in regards to her relationship with her mother, because her mother, whose name is Blac Tony, I think is her name, Blac Tony, Tokyo Tony, whatever the fuck her name is. Her mom is a hot mess, just to put it in a nutshell. I don't think she was in her life at an early age. I think Blac Chyna was raised by a grandmother. And now her mother is like online cursing her out. I mean, she said that she wished she had an abortion with her. She got online and said she wished Blac Chyna, Blac Chyna's father. She said Blac Chyna's father raped her. I mean, all kind of shit. And she strikes me as the type of mother who she appreciated what Blac Chyna was able to do for her, and she wanted her to continue to provide for her financially, regardless as to how she achieved those things. She was just more so concerned about Blac Chyna taking care of her. And, let the rumor mill tell it, Tokyo Tony was not around when Chyna was younger and when Chyna was coming up. But now that she sees that she can't get what she wants out of Blac Chyna, her own mother has resorted to blasting her. Like, she was supposed to be writing a tell-all book about her. Every chance she gets, she's online talking about her, cursing her out. I mean, you would literally think that she's some type of woman on, like, she's beefing with a bitch on the street. Like, she treats her terribly. So, and that kind of goes back into why I initially felt very, very sympathetic towards Chyna, because it's obvious that she's undergoing some sort of trauma in regards to that. Like, who the fuck has a mama that talks to them that way? Who has this type of dynamic with their mother? That's not normal. It's not. And I refuse to believe that as an individual, you can grow up and survive that and be just 100% normal. She's not. And it's clear that she's not. And this aspect kind of just further proves that point. She's endured a lot of psychological and traumatic abuse, traumatic, turbulent family events that kind of created this I have to do for myself mentality very early on in life. And with this Aquarius being present, this just basically means that she's willing to do these things at the expense of other people, putting herself in positions where she's around the right people, or she has the opportunity to use the right people, aka, I mean, her entire career, but especially when she got with Rob Kardashian, who is the little brother of Kim Kardashian, these multi-millionaires who made an empire off of fucking sex tapes and reality television. So Blac Chyna definitely has a hustler's mentality, but I feel like her environment and the way that she grew up kind of put in her head that she has to be for herself at all costs, even if it's at the detriment of other people, which also explains her decision to market for this company. And so Chyna's Mercury is in quincunx to her Pluto. This Mercury sits at the 11th degree, which breaks down to 2, which further reinforces that theme of not really being able to let go of the past, as I mentioned earlier. Now, this aspect points towards her being manipulative, holding on to the past, her growing up in a very contentious type of family environment, very hostile, toxic family environment. It also points towards her being defensive, having a very defensive attitude towards things, being kind of dense, and I would even argue narrow minded to her own opinions. And this explains her reaction to all of the outbursts surrounding the skin bleaching cream endorsement. Because, I mean, as soon as she started getting all the backlash, she hopped on her social media and basically, like, she posted a meme of her as Kodak Black, like she's the finesse kid. And then she said something to the effect of like she's a single mother and people are overreacting and she's doing what she has to do. Like, bitch, shut the fuck up. You're not the first or the last single mother, okay? And do you really want us to believe that, like, is it really that much of a rebuttal to the point where you feel like it justifies you exploiting a community that has been ridden with colorism? You see what I'm saying? Like, in colonialism for fucking years. Like, it's just, ugh. But that tendency to naturally just be defensive, regardless as to where you stand on the issue, it's very indicative of this Mercury quincunx to Pluto. She is very concrete in her beliefs and what she feels to be true. And I mean, it could even, like I said, to be to the point where she's manipulative, like trying to manipulate the facts to fit her agenda and how she wants it to be. Now, her Venus is in trine to her Mars. Her Venus is in the sign of Gemini, with her Mars in the sign of Aquarius. And I say this in like every natal chart reading video. Aquarius is the sign of homosexuality. It's the sign of perversions. And with this aspect, this points towards China being very sexually liberated, very sexually free. So I'm pretty sure she's bisexual. They say that she had a threesome with Tiny and T.I. So, I mean, it's apparent Blac Chyna likes to dip in the lady pond. I think she was or maybe she still is best friends with Amber Rose, who, if I'm not mistaken, maybe she's bisexual as well. I mean, you really can't tell with these women these days. Like, everybody is kind of just, I mean, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But this aspect definitely points towards that. And it's actually a reoccurring theme in her chart. She has a lot of indicators of either homo or bisexuality. And with this Gemini influence here, Gemini does not like to be bored. It's the sign of duality. So a lot of times where you have Gemini touching Venus or Mars, it can have the tendency to create somebody who is known to dibble and dabble sexually just because they like to be stimulated. They like new experiences. They like to, I mean, you can't keep them still. So, I mean, they're going to be attracted to somebody new whenever the wind blows. And this could be male or female. And then when you add that Aquarian energy in there as well, that kind of just, compounds that. She could even be in situations that are just unconventional relationships. And relationships even that I would even argue are for profit, relationships that can benefit her. I mean, when you look back to this relationship that she had with this 18-year-old NBA almighty, whatever his name is, okay, an 18-year-old. I think China is engaging in these relationships with these young boys. I mean, she might very well be fucking them, but I think she's also in relationships with these guys based off of like some sort of contract to gain them exposure. You know what I'm saying? Like, this aspect pretty much states, or it describes somebody who's used to being in situations that a lot of other people would deem as not normal, or that other people would deem as just kind of odd, free-spirited, somebody who, I mean, might even engage, like I said, in threesomes, swingers, and in relationships for benefit, in relationships for profit, that kind of thing. China's Venus in opposition to her Saturn points towards her feeling unworthy. Like, she clearly has self-esteem issues, and this aspect reinforces that because it creates a person who, from a very early age, grew up feeling unloved, grew up feeling like they weren't worth anything, like they didn't deserve to be happy, like they didn't belong, like they didn't receive any love and affection. And this ties back into the fact that her mother wasn't present growing up, and that her mother most likely was out, doing her own thing and whatnot. And it's even reinforced now, giving the relationship or the dynamic of her relationship with her mother. So this aspect really just points towards the fact that Chyna has a very, very, very deep-seated sense of just lack of self-esteem. No matter how cute she is, how much booty she buys, how much skin bleaching cream she puts on or advertises, at a certain point, there is this inherent sense of lack of just self-love. And that's really, if you don't have that, you don't have anything, to be quite honest. And this could also indicate an early childhood that was spent struggling financially as well. So, and this kind of also reinforces the fact that now Chyna feels like she has to do any and everything to obtain and maintain a certain level of wealth or a certain level of assets and finances in order to be able to live a certain way. This aspect can make for some serious depression. It can also make for somebody who's emotionally immature, emotionally stunted, like their growth is stunted because they were never really able to, just emotionally mature past childhood and the trauma of their childhood. And this definitely explains her association dating these young niggas. I mean, besides there being some sense of doing it for publicity and for contractual reasons, I think Blac Chyna, her mind probably does operate as an 18-year-old. Emotionally, she's stunted. She's immature. She's lacking emotional intelligence. I think she got a lot in common. She got more in common with an 18 or 20-year-old than she does with other 29 and 30-year-olds, if you just want to keep it 100. This girl has a lot going on. And I would even say that this kind of contributes towards her self-medication. I think Blac Chyna has a substance issue. And this was indicated, well, basically Rob Kardashian came out and put her on blast about her substance addiction problem, saying that, basically she was addicted to coke and alcohol. But then there have been several occasions of her being caught by the paparazzi, belligerent, delirious, unable to speak, unable to put like a coherent sentence together. And this is intensified as Chyna's moon isn't square to her Saturn. Now, typically whenever you see the moon in such close aspect to any malefic planet, like especially Saturn, it brings about depression. So this could indicate that Blac Chyna definitely goes through severe bouts of depression. It also indicates early emotional struggles and a drive to be successful because of those struggles. A lot of people with this aspect do actually tend to go on to be very successful. Now, I mean, money doesn't buy you everything. Even quote unquote success doesn't necessarily fix all of your issues. And therefore, oftentimes these people still have an underlying sense of dissatisfaction with themselves, dissatisfaction with their emotional state. That number two, that presence of that two energy in Chyna's chart further indicates that there's just this lingering sense of harboring onto emotional wounds, past wounds, okay? And this aspect also kind of creates somebody who tends to have a lack of empathy for others. And it's usually as a result of being unwanted, unloved as a child. That Pisces energy, like I said, Pisces moon tends to create a very strained relationship with the mother, or create a situation to where the mother was unavailable, either emotionally or, physically. And Blac Chyna's mother actually was not in the picture. And this Saturn here could also indicate Chyna being raised by her grandmother, as Saturn is typically associated with elders. China's dysfunctional relationship with her mom can even be seen here as her moon is in semi-square to her Pluto, which produces a situation to where there is, I mean, the mom could be even downright abusive. I mean, period. And I think that's not too hard of a leap to make given the nature of her relationship with Tokyo Tony now. Like, if this is the way her mother acts now in front of cameras, in front of the public, I can only imagine the type of shit her mom did and said to her growing up or whenever they were at odds with one another. So, and yeah, this could just produce a very volatile situation with the mom, a very controlling mother, very manipulative mother, a very turbulent relationship with the mother. Also, China's Mercury is in quincunx to Neptune. Now, this is stereotypically the aspect of deception or the aspect of a liar. A lot of people would say. I say that people who have Mercury in disharmonious type of aspects with their Neptune have an issue with grasping reality. They tend to lie to themselves. They tend to experience life or create their own narrative as to what's going on. And a lot of times people do this who go through traumatic experiences, you know, in order, it's like a survival or a defense mechanism that a lot of children actually tend to do early on, and then some people just grow up and never really outgrow that need to escape, that need to create an alternate reality, probably because the reality that you're in now is too painful. And as a result, this can cause you to come off as a liar, you know. And I actually had a best friend like this. Granted, she's not my friend anymore, but it would be to the point where we would experience the same thing. We would do the same thing, right? And let's say later on we got together with another group of friends and we're recalling and recounting what happened. Her version of the event, y'all, would be so fucking like drastically different from what happened. And she and I have been friends since we were like small children. And she was adopted, granted, another traumatic experience. I'm not sure what her life was like. Well, she was a baby when she was adopted, but still. I'm pretty sure I know for a fact she struggled with her sense of identity earlier on in life. And so as we grew up, I just started to notice it would become a problem to where when she would tell me a story, I got to the point where I knew her so well, I could pick out the parts of the story that I'm like, okay, this bitch lying. Okay, she's exaggerating. Okay, she's stretching the truth. Like, it would be more than just stretching. Because I mean, I'm extra. I'm a Sagittarius sun. Like, we exaggerate all day fucking long. It was further than this. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is these people create their own reality. And as a result, they can be, I mean, it's self-deception, right? But it can also translate into being deceptive to other people. And I'm not even saying that they're always aware of the fact that they're doing that, but they can be very self-deceptive. And this could also reinforce the whole idea of China having addiction issues as well. China's moon is in direct square to her Chiron in the sign of Gemini, which just reinforces the fact that Tokyo Tony was not able to take care of her at a young age. Gemini is the sign of youth, so a lot of times this could deal with a mother who possibly had the child before she was actually ready to be a parent. And this is consistent with the fact that I think Tokyo had China when she was like 16 years old and obviously didn't raise her, and you know, as a child. Also, this points towards a mother who is very youthful, very irresponsible. This could even point towards the fact that her mother is moody, emotionally unstable. All of those things, Tokyo, we obviously see she is, okay? Tokyo Tony is something is seriously wrong with this lady. And the fact that this aspect is showing up in China's chart, definitely, I mean, it explains a lot. It explains a lot. It shows that Tokyo Tony wasn't ready to be a mother, isn't ready to, still at whatever age she is now, still isn't ready to grow up. I mean, when you look at her, if you come across her social media, she acts like a child still at like almost 50 years old. There's some type of cognitive delay with Tokyo Tony that's not quite right, and it's showing up in her chart. And finally, her north node is in the sign of Pisces, with her south node being in the sign of Virgo. So this once again reinforces the addiction issues and just the escapism kind of behavior. With this being Pisces being in her north node, Pisces being ruled by both Jupiter and Neptune, points towards the fact that, I mean, she's either going to be in experiences where she's deceiving herself, she's escaping, she's looking for an escape herself, scapegoating, or being the scapegoat for other people, or having other people deceive her as well. And let's be honest, I feel like Chyna has had a little bit of both go on in her life. I do still sympathize with her to a degree, because I really do see that this girl has had a very difficult life. However, girl, you full of shit. You full of shit. You full of shit, sis. You real full of shit. And that Virgo South Node basically points towards someone who had a rough childhood, who as a result needed to prove themselves and feel as if they had to be perfect, as if everything they had to do or everything that they touch has to be perfect, almost as if they have to prove something to someone. And so it's clear to see that Chyna definitely has it kind of tough in the astrological department. I still feel as if her decision to become an ambassador for this skin bleaching cream was very irresponsible. It was very disappointing, to be quite honest, and it definitely fits into her agenda as laid out here. It's all about the money, money before anything else. And I personally have an issue, just with people who operate that way. So, with that being said, that concludes my generalized reading of Blac Chyna's chart. Drop a comment below, y'all. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if there are any other celebrities you would like for me to take a look at. And of course, I know you probably hit that like button by now. Of course, because I love you and you love me. And make sure you subscribe, share this with your family and friends. And make sure you practice unconditional self-love so that you can love others. And until next time,